The Duggar family generally had a lively dinner with lots of laughter that night, but it was surprisingly quiet. Michelle's occasional polite reprimands to control the younger ones, but there was an unspoken tension in the room tonight. Everyone could see that something was about to happen. She gripped the edge of her napkin with her fingers. There was a long oak table in front of Johannah. She had been thinking about this moment for weeks, practicing her words and picturing every possible response. She knew this would not be easy. She took a deep breath, pushed her chair back a little, and stood up. "I want to say something," she said. The sound of silverware clinking stopped. A few of her sisters looked at each other and knew that what was about to happen was going to be important. Jim Bob raised an eyebrow in interest as he looked up from his food and slowly began to chew. Johannah pulled herself together and took a deep breath. "I'm getting married next month." There was a dead silence. For a moment, it seemed like the world had stopped. Jim Bob choked on his food. Michelle quickly rushed over to touch his back as he coughed loudly. Her face lit up with worry. Jinger stopped moving across the table with her fork almost to her mouth. Johannah's eyes grew wider because she couldn't keep her thoughts to herself. Jessa let out a loud gasp. Even the younger kids, who didn't usually have serious talks, could feel the weight of what was going on. Hey everyone, welcome to Duggar Goose Up 24. Please give this movie a thumbs up. When Jim Bob finally got better, he used a napkin to wipe his lips and clear his throat. His face was unreadable, a mix of silent anger and shock. "Next month?" he asked again in a dangerously calm voice. Johannah answered, "Next month." Michelle's hands shook a little as she folded them in her lap, but she still managed to smile nervously. "Oh my dear," she said in a low voice. "That's really quick." The real problem wasn't speed. The real problem was that she was breaking the rules, which was known by everyone in the room, even Johannah. The Duggar daughters didn't just say they were getting married. They went through a strict wooing process that included constant supervision, a lot of conversations, and most importantly, their father's approval. Johannah, on the other hand, hadn't asked for permission. The Duggar script hadn't been followed by her, and it was even worse that she hadn't followed the Duggar script. Daniel, her fans, wasn't one of them. Jim Bob hadn't picked him. He wasn't from their area, and he didn't share their strict values. Finally, Jessica was able to speak up. "Do you have a venue at all?" Jana wasn't sure what to say next and asked, "Did you first talk about this with your dad?" Johannah replied, "No, I didn't. I'm getting married." The shock in the room echoed around the room. It was unprecedented to openly defy Jim Bob Duggar. Jinger carefully put down her fork. "Johannah, you know how this works, right?" The answer was yes, and I'm done acting like this is how things have to be. His face was darkened with sadness as he said, "You're making a mistake. You don't have to get married right away." She looked him in the eye and said, "I'm not in a hurry. I love you." Michelle put out her hand as if to comfort her. "Honey, we taught you to honor your family and seek God's wisdom." Johannah cut her off with a stern but not harsh, "I have sought wisdom, Mom, and it's outside this house," she said. Jessica shook her head. "You're acting carelessly." After years of fighting for her freedom, Johannah looked like she was torn. "Are you sure you want this?" asked Johannah. "Yes." Like a dense mist, the weight of that one word fell onto the table. Grandma Duggar suddenly clenched her hands together and broke the pause with a happy "Well, all I want is cake." Jinger laughed so hard she couldn't stop, and some of the younger kids laughed too. Michelle also sighed, but her face still looked tense. Jim Bob wasn't laughing though. He gripped his fork more tightly and said, "I will not be attending that wedding." Johannah had expected this, but her chest hurt. "I understand," she murmured as she looked around the table at the family she loved but could no longer blindly follow. She pushed her chair back and stood up, saying, "I love you all, but whether you like it or not, this is happening." When she turned and left, her whole life was over. Jim sat behind her and stared at his plate. Michelle wiped her eyes with a towel. Jessa looked very angry. Grandma dug Johannah too, grumbling to herself as she reached for another cookie. There will be cake at least, and there's more an alum of 19 kids and counting. People are interested in Johannah Duggar's new social media vlog. The Duggar family is no stranger to weddings. Over the years, fans have watched as daughter after daughter walk down the aisle in lavish, traditional ceremonies, always in line with the family's deeply held beliefs. However, Johannah Duggar's recent wedding has sparked intense controversy, and according to insiders, has left the Duggar family in complete disarray. What was meant to be a joyous occasion has instead turned into a scandal within the Duggar world. Some family members allegedly refused to attend. Others, while present, could not hide their disapproval. But why? What made Johannah's wedding so different? Let's break down everything we know about this shocking Duggar wedding that has the entire family in turmoil. For those who haven't followed the Duggar family closely in recent years, Johannah Faith Duggar is one of the younger daughters of Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar. Born in 2005, she was the first Duggar girl to arrive after a long streak of boys, making her the miracle baby for Michelle at the time. Unlike her older sisters, Johannah grew up under a very different kind of spotlight. By the time she was a teenager, the Duggar family's reality TV empire had crumbled due to the scandals surrounding her eldest brother, Josh Duggar. This meant that she didn't experience the same level of public courtship scrutiny that her sisters endured. For years, fans speculated about who she might marry. Would she follow in the footsteps of her sisters and enter a traditional, Duggar-approved courtship? Or would she choose a different path? Now we finally have our answer, and it has rocked the Duggar family to its core. Unlike her sisters before her, Johannah did not have an extremely publicized courtship. If anything, her romantic life was almost entirely hidden from the public eye, an unusual move for a Duggar daughter. Rumors swirled for months about a potential suitor, with some even suggesting that she had secretly been seeing someone outside of the Duggar family's strict conservative circle. These suspicions were confirmed when news broke that Johannah was engaged, but not to someone from the close-knit world of Duggar-approved families like the Bates or the Wismans. Instead, she had fallen in love with a man the family reportedly did not approve of. The identity of her husband was kept tightly under wraps until the wedding announcement leaked online, but sources say that he is not part of the Duggar family's ultra-conservative social circle. He is believed to have a more mainstream Christian background and does not adhere to the strict courtship model that Jim Bob and Michelle promote. This, of course, did not sit well with the Duggar parents, especially Jim Bob. Johannah's wedding, which took place in a small and private ceremony, was not the grand Duggar-style event that fans have come to expect. Gone were the extravagant flower arrangements, the massive guest lists, and the strict no dancing, no secular music rules. Instead, sources say that Johannah planned the wedding her way, incorporating elements that would have been forbidden at her older sister's weddings. Some shocking details that have been rumored include a non-traditional dress. Instead of the classic, ultra-modest Duggar-approved gown with long sleeves and a high neckline, Johannah reportedly opted for a more modern and fitted dress, something that would have been unthinkable in her family's past weddings. Dancing at the reception. The Duggars notoriously banned dancing at their weddings, but according to leaks from guests, Johannah and her husband shared a first dance, a move that would have been seen as rebellious by her parents. A guest list that excluded key family members. Multiple Duggar siblings were either absent or chose not to attend the wedding, fueling speculation that Johannah's marriage had created a serious divide in the family. One source even claimed that Jim Bob Duggar himself was reluctant to give his blessing, something almost unheard of in Duggar history. Following the wedding, it became clear that tensions were high within the Duggar family. According to insiders, some of Johannah's older sisters were thrilled to see her breaking free from the family's restrictive rules. Jinger Duggar Vuolo, who has spoken openly about deconstructing some of the Duggar teachings, allegedly supported Johannah's decision and was one of the few family members who attended with genuine joy. On the other hand, Jessa and Johannah Duggar were reportedly torn. While they wanted to support their sister, they also felt pressure to remain loyal to their parents. And then there was Jim Bob and Michelle. According to a family insider, Jim Bob was deeply unhappy about the wedding and saw it as a major departure from the Duggar way of life. Michelle, always the peacekeeper, tried to put on a supportive front, but those close to the family say she was struggling to accept that one of her daughters had chosen a different path. With Johannah now officially married and seemingly breaking free from the Duggar family's strict way of life, the big question is, Will she continue to distance herself from her parents and siblings? Many are comparing her situation to Jinger's, who moved to Los Angeles and embraced a more mainstream Christian lifestyle after marrying Jeremy Vuolo. Could Johannah follow a similar path? Another question that lingers is whether her relationship with her parents is permanently damaged. Will Jim Bob try to exert control over her new marriage? Will Michelle attempt to mend the family divide? For now, Johannah appears to be enjoying her new life with her husband, but one thing is clear. The Duggar family is not the same after this wedding. Johannah Duggar's wedding was not just another Duggar ceremony. It was a statement, a turning point, and for some members of the family, a betrayal. By choosing to step outside the rigid rules of Duggar courtships and weddings, Johannah has not only carved her own path, but has also challenged the very foundation of what her parents believe. And while some fans are celebrating her newfound independence, others are left wondering,